I was at a listing appointment the other day and we were going through, how commissions break down, and the clients were like, well, can't we pay out less? And I'm like, absolutely you can. You can pay out whatever you want at this point. You can pay out $0. I don't know how that's going to affect your listing. And their idea was like, wow, it shouldn't affect us at all. I mean, everybody's got to take a cut right now. It's kind of hard times. So, why wouldn't they take a cut and that kind of thing? So, looking at it on a consumer side of things, they're like, well, why wouldn't you? Why does this not make sense? But us in the real estate market that is so used to the way that we've been doing things, myself included, think it's, wow, how in the heck do you do this? This is a really hard thing to get over. How do you change a whole industry? This is the way we've been doing it for 25 years.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt, that is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we're going to talk about 5 takeaways as Titans tackle real estate's hottest topics. Spencer Rascoff, Glenn Kelman address some of the hottest topics in the real estate space, whether Shawn and I agree or disagree with the former CEO of Zillow and the current CEO of Redfin. We're also going to be talking about the government shutdown. Shawn, the government will shut down, and how that's going to affect you trying to buy a house if you have a government-backed loan, or if you're selling a house and your buyer maybe has a government-backed loan. Then we're going to get into in or out, whether Shawn battles in or out on 3 houses across the United States. Shawn, let's start with 5 takeaways from Real Estate Titans. So Spencer Rascoff, Glenn Kelman sat down, former rivals. Spencer Rascoff is kind of out of the Zillow game, but he's now dipped his toes into other startups. So he's very much still in the real estate game. And there were some hot button issues that they talked about, and now we can talk about. The first is the existing inventory standoff could last years. So, what's different than 2008 is that home equity remains high. So whereas people in 2008 were, essentially forced to sell and took foreclosures and short sales, the people that, the owners, the sellers, the property owners that can sell now they are able to, and they will have a lot of proceeds. But then it's like, where do they go next? So, in 2008, what broke the logjam was real financial pain. Nobody wanted to list then either, because you're either going to sell your house for half its former value, but then because they were short on their mortgage. On the other hand, the stress isn't widespread in the market. It happened in a few places like Austin, Texas, talking about today, which has been really hot with investors, but otherwise there's no real distress in the market. You just have this long standoff. So my question to you, Shawn, the existing inventory standoff could last years. How long do you foresee this inventory standoff, and what maybe needs to happen for more inventory to come on the market?
Yeah, I believe there's an inventory standoff because of interest rates. We've talked about this before. All of these people, last decade, 12 years, for a long time, people were sub 4% interest rates. So their costs are built in. They've got a 4% interest rate. Why would they sell and then go purchase something for 7.5? Now, there's always going to be people that do that, but that's going to pull that pool of buyer or sellers down, because most people are like, well, look at my payment. Like, if I look at my payment of what I'm paying now and I do it based on the interest rates now, it's cost prohibitive. I cannot afford my own home, right? So that's what a lot of people are saying. Well, if I sell my house right now, yeah, it hurts a little bit because it's small and I really want something bigger, but to add another bedroom, it's $3,000 a month. Does it make sense? No, for a lot of people, it doesn't. So that is what is going to keep people from selling their house. And yeah, I really do believe that the inventory standoff will last for a long time until we start seeing interest rates come down. If we start seeing those come down, I think then the flood of listings will come out a little harder.
So if home prices have stayed high with the higher, relatively speaking, interest rates, I just saw interest rates are like 7.7%.
Yeah.
what happens when interest rates drop? Housing prices can't drop in our area, can they? But we see if more inventory comes on, common economics say that, supply and demand, you get more supply, and then maybe there's some elasticity in the price. But so far, we haven't seen that in our area.
No, and I think, well, we talk about markets all the time, and we're not in a bad market here. We're still good. And a lot of these markets that I'm looking at, Ocean City area, those things are selling like this, right? So you have to be careful. What was your...
So Standoff could last for years.
Yeah.
So if you are looking to purchase in the DC area, I was just talking to someone the other night, and they were like, well, my realtor said that interest rates are going to go up a little bit more, and then they're going to drop in the spring market, and everyone's going to start buying again. And I was like, what? Like, where did they hear that?
How do they know that? No.
So they may go up. They may go up some more. And then I told my one-liner that says, well, I've been wrong about interest rate predictions my entire life, so I'm going to guess that they also go up, and they're probably going to go down. But this notion, this idea that the spring market in 2024 is going to have substantially lower interest rates, maybe.
It's not.
Maybe not.
I don't think it will, because they're predicting over the next 2 years maybe those interest rates will come down. If we did see a drop in interest rate, we're going to see more sellers come in. But think about how many more buyers are going to come in. There's going to be more buyers than sellers that come into the market. That's what's going to, your supply and demand is going to basically stay the same, because right now we don't have a ton of buyers, but we have even less sellers. And so that's driving the whole market. That's driving the prices. That's what's keeping prices up. The other day I just put a property on the market. I got 4 offers, $50,000 above asking. So this is real stuff.
Was it an all cash buyer, or were they getting a mortgage?
I had 1 all cash buyer, and I had 3 that waived everything.
Those 3 were getting
mortgages. Yeah. Okay. So 1 of 4 is cash. And that's another thing. There's a lot of cash out there. People think, at 1.3 million, you're not going to get cash. You're getting cash. People have the cash. And right now interest rates are high. So there's more of a case to use that cash, because it's, do you want to pay a 7.5% interest rate or not? So the thing is, will we see prices drop if interest rates drop? No, probably not, because we'll see more supply, but the buyers are going to come out of the woodwork. There's a lot of buyers that are sitting on the sidelines right now because interest rates are so high and it's cost prohibitive. And, I was looking at some articles over the last couple of days, and they're saying that right now the cost of purchasing a home is way above renting a home. And it really depends on the market you're in. But I guess as a general nationwide thing, the cost to purchase or your monthly payment is higher than you could rent it.
Well, I saw on Twitter that September 2023 marked the least affordable month for housing in history, and it just barely beat out August 2023. Now, it was a doom and gloom Twitter, real estate bubble crash type account, but housing is expensive. And, you can play, as a real estate agent, this has been the most difficult time ever in my career. And maybe if you've been in the business for 10 years or fewer, probably the most difficult time for you. Or if you've been in the business for maybe 20 years or longer, maybe 2008 was more difficult. And play the world's smallest violin for me. But if we can just get through, I see it everywhere. If we can just get through this blip in the radar of what's going on with inventory, then it's going to be a fantastic time to be a real estate agent after this, unless something were to happen with the DOJ, Shawn, which is the next point. The Department of Justice could do something more aggressive following the NAR lawsuit. So, Shawn, NAR is set to go to court in October in a couple weeks. Whether they settle right before or not is still up in the air. But we are talking about the buyer broker commission lawsuits. So Kelman, CEO of Redfin, said that I think the Department of Justice is going to wait to see what happens in these 2 lawsuits. My guess is that most judges are hesitant to cut the real estate industry in half and say all buyers agents are out of work. But it is possible the DOJ could follow up and do something more aggressive. Homes.com is making a huge bet on that. And if buyers agents now had to be hired and paid for by the buyer, I think it is just radically changes the economics in favor of an Australian model, a British model, or something like that. So, Shawn, right now, Remax just settled. Anywhere with Coldwell Banker, Sotheby's, Century 21 just settled. And there have been some stipulations, but we haven't really heard the real impact. We haven't really heard we know what we need to do differently. We can't say that our services are free. We can't say that there's a standard commission. But other than saying these things, there hasn't been written in stone, you and the buyer need to come to a payment agreement before opening a door. Like that, I don't know if the DOJ is allowed to do that. DOJ could probably do a lot of things, but that could be something substantial. So what are your thoughts on the Department of Justice doing something like taking the next step for potential buyer's agents?
Yeah, I think it's coming. And the funny thing is, I was at a listing appointment the other day and we were going through, how commissions break down, and the clients were like, well, can't we pay out less? And I'm like, absolutely, you can. You can pay out whatever you want at this point. You can pay out $0. I don't know how that's going to affect your listing. And their idea was like, wow, it shouldn't affect us at all. I mean, everybody's got to take a cut right now. It's kind of hard times. So, why wouldn't they take a cut and that kind of thing? So, looking at it on a consumer side of things, they're like, well, why wouldn't you? Why does this not make sense? But us in the real estate market that is so used to the way that we've been doing things, myself included, think it's, wow, how in the heck do you do this? This is a really hard thing to get over. How do you change a whole industry? This is the way we've been doing it for 25 years. But I think there is going to be change, and it's going to be something where we as buyer agents are going to be fighting for the dollar and fighting for how we get paid. And it'll probably go away from the seller paying those commissions. So we're just like any change, it changes hard, right? We go through these changes like when we could no longer do coming soon listings. We're like, what? This is crazy. This is, how in the world could you do this? We do all this stuff beforehand. We're putting it out to our clients. This is going to affect us so big. Well, it really didn't have that big of an effect, So once we get used to it and the buyers say, well, listen, I have to pay for this person's service or else I'm not going to get the best deal. Now, here's the thing. If you're a confident real estate agent and you go on an interview just like you would with a seller, you should have no problem. And, I can give example after example of the things that I've done as a buyer's agent that I've won over my clients, or I've gotten them a good deal, or I can take advantage of agents that aren't as seasoned. Sometimes they talk too much. Sometimes I take advantage of that. So you use that to your advantage on the buy side when you're going on an interview. And I think what's going to happen is, it's going to be more of an interview process and saying, all right, well, I can get this guy for X amount of dollars and I can get this person for Y amount of dollars. What's the difference? They go talk to them. They're like, whoa, hold on a second. This person's got so much experience, and why wouldn't I use them? They're going to save me so much money by their tactics, by the way that they've been doing business, but what they've learned. It's just like anything. So I think it's coming. Unfortunately for our business, it's just, we're seeing the lawsuits stack up. We're seeing people settle. I think it's just going to happen, and we're going to have to deal with it.
Pendulum's going to swing in the other direction. It's going to swing. If buyers don't want to pay, and you can argue either way. If the buyer, I think that the buyer agents, that the buyer pays for the commission already. I think,
yeah.
But I also think the sellers are getting the short end of the stick in being heavily suggested and encouraged to set the same or a similar price. You can make that argument all day, but the pendulum's going to swing, and if buyers don't want to pay the buyer agent, then then you don't have to pay. And then you're going to go into a real estate transaction without representation, and you might get burned. And that's the casualty of these lawsuits, is that you're going to get what's coming to you. So for those experts out there, whether you're a Monday morning quarterback or a seasoned real estate expert, you may have to navigate a purchase on your own, for better or for worse. And, with that, I wish you the best of luck. I hope it goes well. And if it doesn't go well, then you're going to start to see why buyers agents are worth it.
That is 100%. If you're out there and you're writing a contract and, you don't know how to compete in a competitive situation and you've got an agent representing buyer A and you're going in alone, buyer B, this agent is going to win because they know the tactics, they know the conversations to have, they have the relationships with agents, they know how to, make things happen. And you as buyer, you don't know those conversations. You don't know how to, for the most part, don't know the inner workings of deals and how to get deals for your clients and things like that. Not only that, you're taking on a lot of risk. A lot of, like I was saying as an example, this past week, four of the offers, all offers had zero contingencies. Do you know what it means to have zero contingencies? Do you understand what happens if something does happen and you can't close on that? You have to be aware of this stuff and somebody has to teach you this stuff. And you can't just learn by reading a book. We learn by doing this every day and we know, and I learn every time I do a transaction, I learn something else every time. It's not like I'm not continuing to learn. I learn from tactics that other agents are using. I learn what to say, what not to say. I learn to keep my mouth shut sometimes. And I listen to agents give me so much information. It's crazy. And I win deals because of that. And that's the thing is, don't think that you can just be Joe Buyer and go in there and win a deal. It's really difficult, especially in a tough market. And in a softer market too, you don't know how to, it's tough. Like I don't pretend to be a rocket scientist and I wouldn't know what to do. And, I think that goes with real estate as well. It's a different kind of purchase. And just beware of what you're doing, right?
I want to continue this conversation. There's a couple other topics that we can kind of just glaze over because there's not much meat on the bone. Candor can help build credibility. Basically, Glenn Kelman is saying that it's difficult to lay off people. And whenever someone loses a job, right, I want to be empathetic. And I don't dislike Redfin CEO Glenn Kelman. He just had to lay off a bunch of people. And I think a lot of tech CEOs have had to do that in the past and have done a good job or a poor job of, firing or I guess laying people off. And then the next thing is going back to the office is very real in some markets. Redfin requires people back in the office. You had people from Amazon who bought houses elsewhere that are now being required to go back in the office. But Shawn, the last point that these two individuals talked about, maybe we can lump back in with buyer agency, is AI can potentially reward unsavory home shopping behavior. Now, the unsavory home shopping behavior specifically talks about maybe a buyer who's like always searching for, family-friendly neighborhoods in this one similarly demographic homogeneous area. And then so the AI, without knowing it, would also only recommend houses in this one area. And you could see how there could be some racial things that would maybe not be ethically okay, or would not pass the smell test for any sort of housing discrimination. That's not really what I want to get into, but what I do want to get into is AI in real estate. Working in day-to-day, I do use ChatGPT, which is incredible. I do use some other AI tools, but we haven't really seen it come to the forefront. Frederick Eklund of $1 Million Listing just released or just announced that he's releasing Maya, which is a new AI tool that's going to help out the Eklund Gomes team. But Shawn, you're saying that buyers don't understand contingencies. Buyers don't know how to have competitive offers with terms like maybe like rent back or waiving contingencies or appraisal gaps. I'm thinking punch that into ChatGPT and you got an expert negotiator on your hand. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you got a good point. I mean, I guess you could tell the agent, hey, hold on, let me put this in ChatGPT. Okay, this is what I say. There's a human element to everything. ChatGPT is not going to save you from everything. Yes, you can learn a lot.
You want to social engineer this person. You want to social engineer the listing agent.
Yeah, I mean, is that what you're saying? Like using AI to do that? I think, yeah. Well, I mean, not necessarily. There's a social aspect to it, right?
I don't think we give buyers enough credit because I was on a forum on Reddit like last week, and it was a realtor forum, and people were saying buyers have no idea how the home process works, and some don't. But like, that's pretty disrespectful to like think that these lawyers and teachers and high class professionals like can't Google or can't go on ChatGPT and have a conversation with how the home buying process works.
Yeah, I mean, anybody can do that if you have the time and energy to actually research it and figure out what to do. But, did you ever have somebody come up to you and be like, Matt, we have to do X, Y, Z because this is what I learned on Google? You've had that, right?
I have.
It's annoying, right? We're like, dude, yeah, of course, right? Or we're getting this question again because Google told you to ask it. It's a ridiculous question. So like we get that all the time.
I think I've made some of those videos where it's like, here are the top 10 questions to ask your real estate agent.
Yeah.
And then people will meet with me and say, all right, I'm going to ask you these 10 questions.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I made that list. Like, I was the maker of that list. Like, don't ask me these questions.
Exactly. So you get those same questions all the time. And you're like, oh, well, all right, where did you learn this one again? So you can learn as a real estate agent that they're trying, but they're really not hitting the mark because they're not a professional in this. Now, AI can do wonders for everybody. And I use it as well. I use ChatGPT to do certain things. But replacing the human element is always going to be tough, and relationship building is always going to be tough, and relation in any way to win you a deal is key. And it happens all the time. Believe me, when you can set a relationship between an agent or however you have to do it, it wins deals. Sometimes I've learned this week, and I've had many agents tell me this week, that it's not always about the dollar. It's not always about the money. There are human elements to this, and people will give you money because they feel bad. Or one thing I heard this week was like, oh, my clients just signed this addendum, giving them a lot more money than they deserved because they felt empathetic towards them. They were like, hey, I made a lot of money on this house. You're struggling right now in this market. I'm just going to give you the money. You never know what is going to work. And so knowing that and realizing that and finding that out from that person comes through conversation and genuine conversation. And that's a lot of times how you win deals. So AI is great. I use it. I think it can be very good. You bring up a very good point that, hey, I could just say, hey, what do I have to do to win a deal in this market, in this neighborhood? And maybe it'll spit out the answers for you. So good point.
Next time you're having like a difficult conversation or a difficult transaction or something's not working, have a conversation with the robot. Talk to the computer. Punch that in. You will be shocked you're going to give it 5 lines. It's going to write you a thesis. It's going to give you so many options.
Yeah, that's true. Here's a question though. If we start getting rid of the buyer agency, how are contracts going to be written? On what form?
Well,
Are we as listing agents now going to have to go, or is there just going to be, hey, NAR, or hey, here's a blanket, is there going to be a
final offer? How about finaloffer.com? We've talked about that before.
Could do that.
You go online, you fill in your terms, and the seller says yes or no.
But at some point, somebody's got to write that offer. So is it the listing agent that's going to be drafting the offer for those two parties? Because right now, as real estate agents, what we rely on is a regional sales contract where every deal is pretty much the same. These contracts are written by lawyers. And so when you have buyers coming in and they're writing their own deal, believe me, they'll put it on a napkin. This is one, all right, how do we regulate that? That's going to be the problem, I think. And maybe when this whole thing comes down from the DOJ, that there's a regulated contract that everybody has to use. I don't know, but it just brings up another point of what we're used to, what we're doing every day to day. We're not lawyers. We just initiate a contract with blanks in it.
How'd you buy your Tesla? Did you buy your Tesla online? Did you go online, fill out an order, say I wanted white, I wanted these tires, I wanted this interior? Why can't we do that with contingencies, address, closing date?
You can. It involves a different system.
I hope NAR or VAR or NVAR or wherever our dues are going towards has some sort of standard form.
You can bet that it won't happen, right? I mean, like if you rely on the government to create a form or a website for us to use, that's going to be hell. If the DOJ creates us a website, you can count on that.
Is it going to be worse than the MLS?
No, that's the thing is,
it might be
the MLS
better
isn't
than
writing
the bright
our contracts,
MLS,
right? So like, there's got to be, hey, maybe we create it, right? The contract writer.
But we already have contracts. The NAR, NVAR already creates them.
But what if the buyer's writing that? They don't have access to that.
Well, I understand what you're saying. When a rental happens, the landlord is like, all right, just go on this form, rent spree, and fill out everything. So why can't the buyer just do that? Hey, you want to write an offer? Here's a link to it.
They could.
You just go on Zillow and click submit offer.
They can. I think it just, again, brings in another level of, on our part, liability, because we're used to, like I'm saying, we're used to a certain contract. And
it would be the same contract as it is now. Who's writing? So. Where is this new contract coming from?
Because a buyer doesn't have access to our contract. Is the listing agent going to write that contract? How are they going to facilitate? So if it's not always going to be a website. Not everybody's going to use a website, especially at the beginning. So how are they going to write a contract?
Everyone's going to use a website.
Not to write a contract.
Well, then you're not writing a contract. So you have a contract. You send it to them. They either fill it out, or it's a fillable PDF where you just fill that in, you click save, and then you email back to the listing agent. I feel like we're making this more difficult than it should be.
I just think there's going to be hurdles, and that's one of the hurdles that's going to happen.
It's a very small hurdle. It's a PDF.
No way, dude. That's a bigger hurdle than you think. Those people are, come on. I mean, you might as a tech savvy guy, but could you imagine a 75-year-old person that doesn't use a computer going in there and writing some sort of terms in there? It's gonna be beneficial to some people and not beneficial.
They should pay a buyer's agent a $100 flat fee to help write the contract.
Okay,
there's gonna be these flat fee brokerages that come up. Okay. Pay $1,000 to help me fill in this form.
Of course it will, and that's the difference. So all right.
So get a flat fee.
Trying to bring up some
broker.
Yeah, there you go. They're going to be up, and that's the thing is we're going to see a huge changes when this happens. That's all I'm saying.
Getting a little heated on the Shawn and Matt show today. All right, let us know your thoughts if one of us is just like talking out of you know what. All right, let's move on to our next topic. This also comes to us from realestatenews.com, but it also comes from 1600 Pennsylvania. Well, that's not where the government is. Do you know the address of the U.S. Capitol? No. Is it like 1 Capitol Street?
I don't know.
Like, should we know? Like, everyone knows the address of the White House, but are there people out there that are like, you idiot, you don't know the address of the U.S. Capitol? I don't feel like that's a address that
it's just the Capitol. You know what I mean?
Like, I think it's like 1 Capitol.
We got to Google that. You go. Google it.
What happens to real estate when the government shuts down? So apparently there's an October 1st deadline looming for lawmakers, and a shutdown could sideline millions of federal employees and government agencies. So the government is most likely going to shut down, and if you have a loan that is backed by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, you could be impacted. So FHA, VA, maybe we throw USDA in there as well. Let's see, the IRS will remain funded through the Inflation Reduction Act. That's good news for home buyers, since operations like income verification for lending can continue as a result of the act. So, Shawn, what happens when the government shuts down? How is that going to affect buyers that are currently under contract, sellers that are under contract, and maybe sellers thinking about putting their property on the market in October and are wondering if, buyers are going to be in town, or are they going to skip town while the government's shut down?
Well, I mean, number one is all of the government employees. You cannot settle on your house. So in our area, we have a lot of government employees. And so that's a big segment of the buyers. So you bring up the question, should sellers be wary? Yeah, I think possibly they should, because that's going to lower your buyer pool, because all of those government workers that are looking to purchase a house cannot settle while they're not employed, while they're not being paid. They have to wait until that shutdown is over. And so if you go into a contract like right now and you're settling October 5th and you're a government employee and you're not going to work, you cannot settle until that thing is done. So the 5th comes and goes, you're in default of the contract. You're in big trouble. So that's number one. All of those employees cannot do anything. Now, there are essential employees that stay in place that I learned, like the military. If you're in the military and there's a government shutdown and you're buying a house, I believe you're still fine. But there are a segment, and like certain CIA employees and certain people that we need to run, they're always going to be there. Those employees are going to be okay. But it's the other workers that are government that cannot buy a house, they cannot settle. So if you waived your contingencies and you think you're going to settlement, guess again, you're not going to be able to close the loan until you have work again. So that's number one.
I mean, that seller, could be waiting for that closing to happen so they can buy their next house. That could have a domino effect there.
A huge domino effect. So think about all the people that have delayed closings right now. They're saying, all right, let's just close in October. Well, like all of our contracts right now are closing in October. So what if, I know that there's government employees that are looking to purchase that are under contract right now. And they're like, maybe they don't even know this, right? Maybe they don't know that they can't close on the loan. So there's going to be some hell to pay, I think, definitely in some of these transactions. And is the seller going to be okay with that and saying, okay, let's just delay? It depends on the situation. Like you said, what if that seller is now buying another house and you're delaying closing and we can't get the closing? Is it going to be like the pandemic thing where you have an addendum that says, because of the government shutdown, we have to add in this addendum? Maybe you should add something that to your contract right now if you are going under contract and settling in October, because we don't know how long this is going to last. So another way that I'll give my example again, because I've been looking at beach houses on the water, houses in floodplains, possible floodplains. And so I was talking to lenders and things about this, and I wanted to find out what flood insurance would cost for a certain house. And it depends on maps, and you got to look at these things and look how, whatever. But there's FEMA flood insurance and there's private flood insurance. And I'm no expert in this because I don't really deal with this, but I'm looking at purchasing something where this could be affected. And they said that literally, if you have FEMA insurance, if you're looking to get FEMA insurance, you waive all your contingencies, and then all of a sudden there is no FEMA insurance. It's not going to happen. You cannot close that deal, and you're under contract thinking you're getting it. Guess what you have to do? You either have to default in that contract or you have to go find private flood insurance. Private flood insurance in certain areas can be 4 times as much as the FEMA insurance. FEMA insurance is way lower for the most part, from what I understand of the quick rundown that I got of this, than private insurance. And so you have to be careful on that side of things as well. So be very careful on going into real estate transactions right now when there is a looming government shutdown. There are multiple ways that you could be affected. And I guess the last way would be with the government-backed loans. And I was reading, and I don't think they're going to be as affected. That's your FHA and your VA, because I learned that those are funded by lenders. So that is actually not funded by the government somehow. It's funded by lenders. So those should be okay. But there are instances in there that will be affected. And I think the number is low, but think about that. So depending on what kind of loan you're doing, flood insurance and government employees.
One other note that the article states is that mortgage rates could go down a little bit. Ironically, a government shutdown could accomplish what the Federal Reserve has been trying to do over a year: cool off the economy. Case in point, a decade ago, rates dropped from 4.5% to 4% leading up to the shutdown, but were quickly back up to 4.5% after it ended. So
that's interesting.
Not sure if, obviously we're not a decade ago, completely different time, different era. And, this is all happening so quickly. So if you have any questions about the government shutdown and how that may impact you, definitely drop them in the comment section below, and Shawn and I will do our best to answer those. All right, Shawn, let's move on to in or out, whether you are in or out on 3 properties across the United States, all from Realtor.com. Let's start with Colorado's Priciest home offers Panoramic Splendor in Aspen for $105 million. Surrounded by mountains and water, this enchanting estate in Aspen, Colorado just hit the market for an astonishing $105 million. The pricey property became the most expensive listing on Realtor.com when it landed on the market 2 weeks ago. It is located along Roaring Fork Road. It's a 8.4 acre property boasting 8 bedrooms, 13 bathrooms as the main residence, and a 2-bedroom guest house and a 1-bedroom caretaker's house. So it has the riverfront location. You're in scenic Aspen, Colorado, which has the gorgeous summers, the snowy winters, and it is on the market for $100 million. Shawn, are you in or out on the Aspen Estate?
Man, it looks beautiful. Matt, $105 million. That's huge. That is a lot.
We're
of
in
money.
the big leagues. We're in Aspen.
105,000. I mean, million, thousand. Look
Thought
at me,
the
105,000. I'm coming from Pittsburgh to Aspen, man.
I thought the Rocky Mountains were rockier than this.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it does look really beautiful. It's on a nice plot of land, 8 acres in Aspen. The thing is, I don't know about Aspen pricing, but this is the most expensive house in Colorado.
So what the listing agent said is that it is situated closer to the Roaring Fork River than you could ever build again. So the agent's really bragging about how close you are to the river.
What happens if that floods a little bit?
You are pretty close.
Yeah. I'll be quick on this. I think that, it's a gorgeous house, probably great location. I've been to Aspen, but I haven't really spent time there. I've driven through. $105 million. I do not want to own the most expensive house in Colorado. I just don't. I don't care about that stuff. It's a nice house. I don't think, in my opinion, it's worth $105 million. So I'm going to pass on this one, Matt.
Have you seen prices in Aspen, Colorado?
No, I haven't. I don't.
They
pay
are
attention.
astronomical. I'm in on pretty much anything in Aspen, Colorado. Couple points. The property address is 41 Popcorn Lane, and then it says Difficult Lane. So your addresses are Popcorn and Difficult. I know we're talking about $100 million property here, kind of weird. And then you have the main road, 82, which on Google Maps is allegedly closed from October to May. Not quite sure if that's accurate or if I understand that, but also if I have $100 million to buy a house like this, I am figuring out a way to open up that road for sure. So $100 million, Aspen, I'm definitely in on that.
How are you going to get to the house? I guess you could copter in, but it's too cold, right? I don't know about...
Take the PJ.
Yeah?
Take the PJ, fly right into Aspen. What do you mean, how do you get it?
Well, no,
how do you get up on all these small details?
How do you
I got $100 million. I'm not worried about how I'm getting there.
I guess you got one of those big snow machines. You can get there, right?
Yeah.
All right. Good job, Matt. I'm glad. I hope you like it. Just have me over. Let me see it.
I will have you over all the time.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on to the next property. Shawn, we're going to Iowa. It's academic. Former school turned mansion in Iowa hits the market for $1.7 million. From the outside, it's easy to see that Prairie Castle in Nevada, Iowa, was a school in its past life. But inside, only a few traces remain of what was once Milford Township School. The reimagined residence, now available for $1.75 million, became this week's most popular home on Realtor.com. The school was built in 1923 and held classes until 1990, Shawn. So we have 4 beds, 5.5 plus bathrooms, and we have about 14,000 square feet. So it's been completely redone. It has tall ceilings. It has maybe some faux brickwork done. You have the open kitchen. And then you, of course, have the gymnasium at some point along with the ballroom. So, Shawn, are you in or out on the converted schoolhouse for $1.75 million?
Man, this is tough. When I first saw this, I was like, oh, God, no. I don't want this house because it looks like a school. And I don't want to be anywhere near a school. I don't want my house looking like a school, right? But then you come on the inside, and this does not look anything like a school, and it's been completely transformed. It looks actually really good inside. Really well done. There are some cool features to it. Matt, can you go back to where it's located? It looked like it was in the middle of zero nowhere.
You're not familiar with Nevada, Iowa?
No.
That's not on your radar?
Yeah, no.
All right, well, I'm going to keep zooming out until, we're on the corner of 190th and 59th Ave. Got to keep zooming out.
Holy moly.
Oh, we're just outside of Ames.
Where's Ames?
Just outside of Des Moines.
Des Moines, Iowa.
So,
and you're paying 1 point what?
You just draw a map of Iowa. It's easy. It's just a rectangle. And then, boop, right in the middle, you got Des Moines. And then right above Des Moines, you have Nevada.
What am I going to do for work in that area to afford that house? Am I paying cash or do I have to, am I financing? All right, I just think it's too far in the middle of nowhere for me. I don't know. I've never been to Iowa. I don't really have a need to go to Iowa. I feel like it's a really cool house. One, I don't really want a school. The interior kind of got me. I was like, all right, now we're talking, but I think I'm going to pass on this. This is just in the middle of nowhere for me for $1.75 million. Looks really cool school grounds, but it's still a school. You still got the circle around there. You still got the flagpole. Reminds me too much of school in the middle of nowhere. I'm pulling. I'm not buying it.
Shawn, it's $126 per square foot, fully renovated.
How many square feet is that?
It's 13,872.
Yeah, you know what? 13,000 square feet in the middle of nowhere still is doing me no good. I'm gonna pass.
Well, I tried to avoid looking at that map for as long as possible because the exterior, Shawn doesn't like the circle and the flagpole. I'm sorry. I like a nice American flagpole. I'm sorry. The bigger the American flag, the better.
Oh, I like the American flag.
Nice little circle. Nice little circle. I'm just messing with Shawn for those folks at home. Nice little circle. I'm into it, but Shawn made me pull up the map. And when he did, I did not like how far I had to zoom out. So for that, I am out. Beautiful. That may be the best school that we've seen.
Really nice school.
I'm glad we didn't see any urinals. Sometimes they'll
they leave that.
Yeah,
those. Oh,
refresh it or whatnot.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to our last property. Only $497,000 will get you this magnificent Victorian mansion in Pennsylvania. Just a mile downtown from Reading, Pennsylvania, sits a 7-bedroom Victorian mansion with more than 7,000 square feet. While the house is large, the $497,000 price tag seems more modest. Perched at 742 Centre Avenue, the home's location and condition make it a remarkable opportunity for the next buyer. So, Shawn, just under $500,000. We have 7 bedrooms, 4.5 plus bathrooms, and over 7,000 square feet in one of Shawn's favorite states of Pennsylvania. Shawn, are you in or out on the Victorian mansion?
Matt, this looks a lot like this place that I was an investor in a long time ago down in Old Town. It's called the French Lawler House. It looks a lot like this. Not so great memories from that purchase, but this thing is unreal for $500,000. This is getting my attention. Reading, I don't know Reading all that well, although Lindsay, our old teammate, moved up to.
We got to ask Lindsay to show this to us.
Yeah. She lives up near there. And did you know that my band of 20 years ago, we're going to be playing in Reading, Pennsylvania?
You should see this property.
I'm going up.
You should see it in person.
I'm going to buy it. I'm going to go up and buy it.
Drive by Centre Avenue.
Yeah. I think I'm in on this. This looks really well done. It's kind of like look at that. That's powerful.
This looks like if AI were to draw like a Victorian house. This looks amazing.
It does. It really does. It's funny because it looks, it's got the turret and it's got like multiple turrets off the turret kind of thing. Looks like castle-y in a way, which I'm typically not into, but the Victorian style, just gorgeous. I'm a player. I'm going to buy this. Sure.
Yeah, everything from the exterior, the stairs leading up, the stairs once you get inside the property, the fireplace, the wood paneling. I'm all about it. I am 100% in on the Victorian mansion.
Amazing.
We're
really
both in
well
on
done, man. And I feel like that's a good price, right? Like for that,
under $500,000 for 7,000 square feet. Reading, Pennsylvania, not in the middle of nowhere, right? That's an actual town. That's an actual place.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nevada, Iowa. All right, well, let us know if you're in or out in the comments section below. And for Shawn and myself, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.